All right, let's get into our first big story. Nigeria joined the rest of the global community to mark this year's World Disability Day, and some physically challenged persons fired out on the streets of Nigeria's capital Abuja to raise awareness on their plight.
TVC News' Kemi Balogun tells us more.
December the 3rd every year is the International Day for Persons Living with Disabilities. It is a day set aside to focus on the plight of the physically challenged and to formulate ways of improving their lot. To mark the day in the nation's capital, some individuals and organizations took time out to show love to these special people. More than 100 physically challenged persons took part in the walk with security personnel on hand to ensure their safety. The Big Church Foundation and some celebrities were also part of this 2-kilometer walk.
We decided to show love to the disabled one. We call them special ones, to let the world know that there's another world somewhere.
I could see their struggle, just working, moving, just getting from one location to another. It's so difficult for them, and I live my life so free and, just like this.
It was obvious these ones were out to have some fun despite their disability. As part of measures to carry everyone along, those that could not walk were chauffeur-driven in a bus.
Today is a happy day for every physically challenged person across the globe. And here in Nigeria, we are very happy to celebrate this day.
It's all over the world now. As we are gathering here, we go to UK, America, Germany, they are gathering together like this to celebrate the special people in their midst. To make them feel that there's hope. They are not hopeless.
They arrived at the popular Millennium Park in high spirits to a waiting buffet, but they want a lot more than just a day out.
I'll join forces with Big Church Foundation, to actually make sure that something, not just a walk and then go home, but something tangible is done for these people, definitely.
The fact that many of us embark on street begging shows we lack capital to carry out our businesses. That is why we are crying and asking government to support us with capital, and they will see that most of us will get off the street and stop this street begging.
I just wish the government would do more. I know they're doing a lot right now, but I wish they could really do more. They need to set up workshops where they could actually teach some of these people, teach them a trade or two. I know it's been done, but we need a lot more of it because we see so many of them on the streets.
This day may not last long enough for these special ones, but their long-term desire is to be better supported for greater inclusion into the larger society. Kemi Balogun, TVC News, Abuja.
All right, joining us right now is an entrepreneur, Cosman Sokoli, and also with us the television presenter and producer, Shade Salimonu. Many thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast this morning. Now we're going to have a guest from Port Harcourt.
Yeah, we'll be having a guest from Port Harcourt. Join us as we get along. But let's start off now before we get to our Port Harcourt studio. All right, now, Cosmas, let me start with you here. First of all, how did you commemorate the day, the World Disability Day, or Day to commemorate and recognize people with disability? How did you commemorate that day? How did it come up with you?
Well, for the first time, I had a very quiet time. I was in my house, going through, the struggle over the years, what we have achieved, what can we do more to make things move faster? Because over the years, we've done so much. We've gone to the extent of getting our legislators to experience disability, by having some of them blindfolded, some of them sit on a wheelchair at the National Assembly. We've done so much to create awareness, to get it into our, system here in Nigeria that these are Nigerians, full-fledged Nigerians who have all the rights, and therefore, shouldn't allow to suffer certain impediments or obstacles that hinder them from achieving their full potential. And we're actually not happy that we've not achieved commensurate results. And
All right. We'll come back to that space that you're not happy, you're not satisfied with what's going on. And when we come back, we'll have Folashade on. But let's go on a break now. We'll come back on the program. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.
Well, this morning we are looking at ability and disabilities, and of course those who are with us in the studio are example of that. Shade is here, who is a television presenter, and Cosmos is an entrepreneur. And very soon we're going to be linking up with an broadcaster in Port Harcourt here, really. So Shade, tell us, what does the day living with disability, what does it mean for you?
Well, for me as a producer, presenter, I believe it is time for me to tell the world what our challenges are, what we want, what we're advocating for, what we have been doing over the years to ensure that as persons with disability, we are not just sitting on the fence doing nothing. You know, we are not just saying government should do this for us without us, you know, contributing our own quota as persons with disability. I, as a person, for that day, decided to produce programs, reports, one or two documentaries on what people with disability have been able to achieve in their own little corner, in their own little way, despite their challenges, and still expecting the government to help.
You work with the mass media. It's not a little way, it's not a little corner, really. It's the whole world. You have a stage. The whole world is your stage. There's no little corner, really.
Well, I say little corner because like I tell people on television that whatever you find yourself doing as a person with disability, whatever sector you find yourself, is your own little corner. So make sure in that space that you have, you do everything in your power to ensure that you tell the world in that space that you have that there is actually ability in disability. So apart from producing such on for TV, I also went around one or two programs. I was also involved in one or two programs where I had to motivate others like me, you know, to ensure they empower themselves. Because people can only help you if you have tried helping yourself. People will be interested in also, you know, helping you to be a better person.
Okay, let's get to our Port Harcourt studio now. We have a broadcaster waiting in there. Okay, my producers are telling me he's not ready yet.
We're so excited to have him. We can't wait.
But we have him on Kie Obomanu, a broadcaster from Port Harcourt. We'll get to him as we get along. Now, let me come back to you, Cosmas. When it comes to the issue of awareness of the people about the needs and plight of people with disability, do you think that the awareness is enough amongst people from your understanding?
Well, the fact that we're not getting the kind of result we want means that the awareness is not enough. Although sometimes I think, I wonder, is there any other way we could get into our system, into our consciousness? You know, because you find out that things that our colleagues take for granted, you know, even in some small African countries, is a big deal for us here. You know, and I was once, I found myself in Washington, D.C., and I saw this man that looked obviously like a Nigerian. And when we alighted from the taxi, I boarded the train before him. He was coming behind me. We all came out at the same time. And, you know, I would expect that this man would say, oh, if he's in Nigeria, this guy will have a hell of a problem getting to the train. You know, it would have long gone while I would be struggling to get people to help me. And you know, our people, our leaders travel all over the world, they see what is happening, even in some little African countries. And yet when they come back here, they pretend as if, you know, we don't exist here. And so, since we're not getting the kind of result we wanted, we feel that the awareness is not enough. But it can never be too much. We will keep shouting, and we, you know, beg you, the media, to continue to create the awareness.
All right. Well, I am happy we have a broadcaster here, and we also have one in Port Harcourt waiting. But let me ask you, let me stay with you on this. give us a picture of what the ideal response is supposed to be. Then maybe we'll be able to measure the difference between what is supposed to be and where we are right now. Okay, today you still see structures being built without considering the interests of persons with disabilities. You see steps without ramp, public buildings I'm talking about. You see the roads being constructed without the walkways having a ramp for persons with disabilities to access the walkway. You see so many things happening around you as if you don't exist. And this is what is annoying. Because we've talked, we've shouted, we've demonstrated, we're doing wonderfully well in sports. We are doing so much that this country, our leaders
to cap it up, you had more medals in this last Olympics.
Yes, exactly, the Paralympics.
You give Nigeria more glory.
Not just this last one.
It
has always
been.
Really. Yes.
That's true.
So you still see our leaders behave as if we're not there. In fact, this was one of the reasons that pushed me into politics. Because I started talking to my colleagues, maybe we should get in there, become a governor and make a difference. Become the president and make a difference. And I feel this is the next level. A couple of us are now into politics. I will encourage more to get into politics, get into the position of leadership, and begin to do things and stop asking people to do things for us. So
the National Assembly seemed to be sympathetic towards your cause. This is not the first time they've passed the disability bill. During Obasanjo, it was passed, no assent. During Goodluck Jonathan, it was passed, no assent. Now it's been passed again. Maybe the presidents have issues with you, not the lawmakers.
I don't think so. I just feel that the right thing still needs to be done. We, like he said, we are still advocating, we are still crying, we are still shouting, because these people are well traveled and they know what is obtainable over there. Let me share an experience with you. One of the things we are advocating for is, we talked about accessibility now. One of it is parking lot, for example, that some percentage of parking lot should be allotted to us. Now you get to 1 or 2 places where this parking lot is actually allotted. Like in my organization in Lagos Television, for example, we have 2 parking lots allotted to us in each of the parking lots. And then from my experience, I get there and someone parks there. You see the logo, you see everything indicating that this is for a person with disability. And then you accost the person. Hello, ma. Hello, sir. That space is for a person with disability. The person well dressed, knowing that this person is well educated, and then you accost the person is like, so why shouldn't I park there? I'm also a person, I'm a special person. And I said to the person, what makes you special? What makes you different? And then we start arguing and all that. And then I tell the person, do you know that there's a law in Lagos State that if you do this, I can, report you, and then you have to pay a fine. And the person tells me, how much is the fine? I will pay the fine. Somebody that is educated, that knows that if he or she does that abroad, he or she won't even there do that abroad. So our orientation needs to change. It is not just the government now, but individuals, organizations. We advocate in that law also that at least certain percentage of persons with disabilities that are qualified should be employed in organizations. How many organizations are employing persons with disabilities that are qualified? We are not saying be sympathetic towards us and say, okay, because this person is physically challenged or mentally challenged, let me just have mercy on him or her and employ the person. We are not saying that. We have people that are qualified. We have people that are hardworking. We have people that are able. We have people that are capable. People that can do the job and do it right. In fact, we do it better. Look at those of us in sports. They are doing very well. What says that individuals and organizations and all that should not encourage them and give them accommodation that they need, give them transportation, accessible transportation? You get to the car park today, it is not easy for somebody on wheelchair to access the bus. somebody starts to carry the wheelchair and all that, I mean, it is not so dignifying. And then for those of us that are preaching it, we should start from our homes. When I say little corner, I'm not saying little corner as in little corner. You know, I am saying that wherever you find yourself, make sure nobody prays for disability, my sister. Nobody prays for it. But it can happen to anybody. Somebody can just slump and then wake up the next morning with stroke. Then that person will need a ramp to climb. So it cuts across. It's not
one
just
of the issues with the pedestrian bridges that came up in Lagos State, and a lot of complaint. Have there been some kind of improvement?
Well, one or two of it is kind of accessible. I would, for me, really, I will give it up to the Lagos State government. Not because I work there, but I would say they have actually taken the bull by the horn. The law has been passed. Now there is a board, there is a disability board that has been set up. They've been given an assignment. They've started. If you go to Allow Saturday, you get to see parking lots allotted to us. I can drive in there conveniently and park without, you know, being blocked and all that. That makes me a human being. I want to get to a bank. I want to be able to access it conveniently.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to you again, Folashade and Cosmas, and we expect Kie Obomanu to join us from Port Harcourt. Now, we'll go on a break now, and at the same time, we'll be going out on TVC Entertainment. The viewers there can continue with TVC Breakfast on TVC Nigeria on Concert Channel 190 and DSTV Channel 418.
Good. If it is 45 and this CTV 510, let's continue the conversation.
Well, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast. And on this segment, we're talking about World Disability Day. It was actually marked on the 3rd of December. And in Nigeria, there was a walk in Abuja. A lot of people got together to do a commemorative walk, and celebrities joined in. And it wasn't just in Abuja, other parts of the country also did the same. But here in the studio today, we are talking about this. So we have Cosmas Okoli, he's an entrepreneur, joining us in here. We also have Folashade Salimonu. She is a broadcaster and a producer on TV. She's been doing all of this. And we also have Kie Obomanu that will be joining us from Port Harcourt on this. But let's give you some basic information in here. Since 1992, the United Nations has consistently tried to improve the living standards of people living with a disability.
The UN set Sustainable Development Goals to create a more inclusive and equitable world for persons living with disabilities. The theme for 2016, Achieving 17 Goals for the Future We Want, draws attention to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and how these goals can create a society without barriers, including those relating to the physical environment, information and communications technology, ICT, or attitudinal barriers.
Now, many families in developing countries have members who have one form of disability or the other. Now, more than 10% of the world's population, or roughly 650 million. She is a broadcaster and the producer on TV. She's been doing all of this. And we also have Kie Obomanu that will be joining us from Port Harcourt on this. But let's give you some basic information in here. Since 1992, the United Nations has consistently tried to improve the living standards of people living with a disability.
The UN set Sustainable Development Goals to create a more inclusive and equitable world for persons living with disabilities. The theme for 2016, Achieving 17 Goals for the Future We Want, draws attention to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and how these goals can create a society without barriers, including those relating to the physical environment, information and communications technology, ICT, or attitudinal barriers.
Now, many families in developing countries have members who have one form of disability or the other. Now, more than 10% of the world's population, or roughly 650 million people, live with a disability, while about 20% of the world's poor people live with a disability.
Many children in Africa who live with a disability do not attend school. The percentage of out-of-school children living with disabilities in some African countries varies between 65 to 85%. In many low-income and middle-income countries, only 5 to 15% of people living with disabilities who require assistive devices and technology have access to them.
Now, many rights and advocacy groups in Nigeria continue to push for the construction of disability-friendly facilities in public spaces. We talked about that earlier on. Falasha did mention that earlier on. And the Nigerian Senate in July passed the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability Prohibition Bill 2016. The bill seeks to provide social protection to persons with disabilities and provide safeguards against any discrimination they may suffer from.
A similar bill called Nigerian with Disability Bill 2016 has been passed by the House of Representatives. Now, both houses will harmonize the bills before it is sent to the President for assent. In that bill, there's a requirement, or you're asking for a commission and perhaps some other conditions. Do you think maybe it's time to review some of those conditions again? Perhaps this time it will get presidential assent.
Well, you asked why other presidents didn't sign the bill. Actually, really can't tell why, but I understood Jonathan was talking about the funds to implement what we wanted. But, think of that. Have we stopped existing as a country? This is about 10% of the population. We're talking about mainstreaming them, making them become more productive and independent, employers of labor and so on, taxpayers and so on and so forth. So it's a wise investment. And so if you're looking at the funds you need to create commission and all that, and not looking at the benefit of the commission, then you lose it. And that's what happened with Jonathan. He lost it. He didn't sign that bill into law. And that bill got the best input from persons with disabilities, from experts and everything. We built it up from scratch and got to that point. It was, I don't know, it was the best.
Well, is it not possible to merge or create a sub-commission, a sub-unit within another existing ministry or commission instead of creating a different one completely, which might be more expensive?
No. When you say more expensive, we're talking about 10% of our population, if not more. And what kind of I said is a wise investment. We're going to reap abundantly from this investment because you're going to make persons with disabilities more productive and independent, taxpayers and so on and so forth. It's going to be, tapping into this segment of the population that have been largely, redundant because of lack of access, because of lack of opportunities and so on and so forth. You make them become productive, you make them become employers of labor, taxpayers and so on and so forth. So it's a wise investment. So if you're looking at what you're going to put there without looking at what you're going to get out of it, then you lose it. That's what we're talking about. And I can't tell why Jonathan in particular didn't sign that bill into law. Now this one, I just pray that the House,
by
the
this
Senate,
one you mean President Buhari?
They will harmonize the bill quickly. And I want to believe that this president, who has been mounting change, and we're all looking for that change, we sign it without wasting a second.
Okay. Let's get to our Port Harcourt studio now. We have Kie Obomanu with us now, a broadcaster joining us from Port Harcourt. Kie, good morning. It's good to have you join us right now. First of all, let me ask, how did you commemorate the day on Saturday? That was Day 4, UN Day for Disabilities.
Well, as a matter of fact, because of the rerun elections.
Wow, I love your voice.
Our governor has decided to.
The lady's voice.
Oh, thank you very much. Our governor has decided to shift the celebrations by a couple of weeks to enable us to have the opportunity of campaigning all through the state, because the rerun elections is actually very important to us.
Okay, let's talk about the theme for the year. Is 17 goals, 17 sustainable development goals. But you remember in 2009, your theme for that year also had to do with the MDGs. How would you assess the success of that year, the theme of that year, how it affected you, and how you see this year playing out as well?
Well, the objective is to have an all-inclusive society where persons living with disability will be integrated into the system. Here in Africa, we have a situation where most people PWDs have, they are always receiving PT and some kind of monetary help. That's actually not what we want. We want opportunities, and that is what the United Nations, through this year's theme, is trying to do, which is actually very, very different. The 17 goals will enable us achieve more.
All right, if we have to narrow them down or to be a little more specific, how do these 17 goals resonate with you, if we have to put it that way?
Well, the first thing is that our country, Nigeria, has not been doing anything. You know, we have laws in place, they are not working. A lot of people are not benefiting, you know. For instance, I just want to go to the basics, you know. If you're in a wheelchair, you can't have access to banking halls. Imagine a situation where someone who is on a wheelchair is trying to get some money from the bank, you know, the ATM. They're all not friendly, disability friendly. There are many situations. So if you look at the goals, some of these goals are not achievable in our society, Nigeria, because people don't care. People are not worried about what happens to us. They just feel that every person living with disability wants some money or some kind of financial. No, that's not it. Some of us are graduates. Some of us are well-lettered, you know. So what we want are opportunities for us to excel in our chosen professions. So this is one of our major problems. So if you look at the goals, you'll see that 90% of them are not achievable in Nigeria. And it's so bad because nobody cares. For now, I don't think the president has any special assistant on disability matters. You know, someone who can always remind him. And we are left out in a lot of things, you know. People just feel, oh, you are having a problem. Why not just wait a while? Unless, you know, it's like you are a second-class citizen, which is actually not very nice. We want equal opportunities. We want a situation where we can make meaningful contributions in our society. So when you look at these goals, you'll find out that Nigeria is actually lagging behind, which is not good for the image of our country.
All right, Kie, Falasha, they just gave us a point of information here that the president actually has a special advisor on people with disabilities. So I guess we'll take that as a point of information.
Okay, all right. So let's talk particularly about one of the
Well, he's actually not, I'm sorry to say that he's not making an impact.
Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, the special advisor or the president? Yeah. Which one?
He's actually not making an impact, you know, because if he's making an impact, we'll all feel it. Nothing is actually happening. You know, there is the difference between having an active person occupying a role and just having an inactive person. You see, when you can advise properly and everything is put into policies, you know, good policy initiatives that can affect the people, this is what we are lacking. Not just having somebody who is just sitting down there without making meaningful contribution. That's
all right, but at least he has a special advisor. But at least he has a special advisor. Being active or not being or not being active is something else. But however, we'll come back to that, Kie.
Okay, all right. And let's talk about one of the goals for the SDG, which has to do with eradicating poverty. You're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
How do you think, which is one of your own goals, how do you think the society or you can help others to eradicate poverty when it comes to that particular goal?
Okay. Think of excuse me. Think of a market. Excuse me. You know, a new market being constructed. I have one directly by the side of my office in Ijesha. When they started developing the market, they came to me to market it, and I asked them, what facilities do you have for persons with disabilities to own shops and also to be able to shop there? These are, you know, some of the, you know, economic issues we need. Because if I can't, if I'm a trader, for instance, and I can't own a shop, what kind of a trader am I? And I cannot access the market. Even, you know, those of us who want to go and shop, sometimes you're forced to send someone.
Do you have access to credit, really, beyond the shop itself? Do you have money to do the business?
Yeah, you know, these are some of the, because if I can own a shop, I can take a loan and set up a shop and make money, right? But if I can't even own a shop, even if I have the money, then I'm shut out of that opportunity. Okay? So in every endeavor in this country, are we thinking about persons with disabilities? You know, when we are constructing, you know, economic opportunities, we're creating any economic opportunity, are we thinking about persons with disabilities?
They have to be factored in.
Yeah, it has to be factored in. I mean, you talked about banks. If I cannot even access bank to do my transactions,
all right.
How can I work there?
Yeah, customers, we'll come back to this.
Okay.
Let's go on a break briefly, and then we come back. And when we come back, Fola Shade will be having Fola join us to give us
Fola Dele now.
Fola Dele, exactly. Fola Dele will join us to give us perspectives on social media on this. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.
All right, if you're just joining us, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and this is the very first big story this morning, looking at people living with disabilities, ability in disabilities. I would like to hear what Nigerians have to say. So Foladele is here to tell us, feel the pulse of the people, and what is happening this morning.
Sorry, nice to hear your voice. I didn't know you had called me on. Good morning, Mike. Morning, Shade. Good morning, Cosmas. Happy International Day of People with Disability.
Yeah, although it was on the 3rd, but
yes,
still okay.
Well, you know, we're celebrating 2 days after, but yeah.
We'll keep the torch alive.
All right, so let's see what some Nigerians are saying about this and what concerns they're raising. Dr. Obinna Iberim says, ensure #inclusiveness and don't leave anyone behind, especially those with #disabilities. Ogungbeso Adewale says, do Nigerian banks cater to people with disabilities? Wisdom Mohida Sani says, persons with disabilities face many challenges every day in Nigeria. It seems like we don't have an idea how to help them. Adebink Mekayade says, I know Richard Branson turned out nice, even with having dyslexia, but that's America. Nigeria is so hard for people that have disabilities. Adewale Adeyanju says, inequality of opportunities, discriminations, marginalization, unfairness, and injustice are the lot of people with disabilities in Nigeria. And the last one here from Chukuma Nana, he says, until #inclusive education becomes a reality in Nigeria, many more children with disabilities will miss out on their dreams. And I know you guys touched on that earlier. I mean, it seems no one has any much good to say about this because
as to what has been done.
Exactly, as to what has been done.
Kudos to this or kudos to that.
Because it seems that we're, lagging behind. But let's talk about wheelchairs, Shade and Cosmas. So I know that they can be quite pricey. They're not as cheap as they could be. And
they are not.
Yeah, and I know that you sell wheelchairs.
I deal on
motorized wheelchairs, right?
All of them.
Like the one Shade is using, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, so how affordable are they for the common man?
Okay, they are not affordable.
Wow.
And the reasons are obvious. Wheelchairs, you don't sell wheelchairs like you sell sandals or clothes.
Or crutches.
Or crutches, And because of that, by the time you factor in the costs of, stocking and every other thing, it's high. Secondly, we don't produce wheelchair in this country. They're all imported.
Oh, so forex.
It goes, yes, forex. So when Naira crash, the prices go up, right? And so, and you don't have many people dealing on that. Yes, there is no duty on mobility aids, which is good, right? But there are other things that make it expensive, particularly the fact that we don't produce wheelchair here. My organization has tried to produce wheelchair. We tried to get loan from the Bank of Industries, and we've not been able to achieve that. If we achieve that, it may not be sustainable except government puts in a policy where when we produce, government will buy it off us, sell at reduced price, or authorize us to sell at reduced price. They make up the difference. There has to be a way. The government has to bring in a system that will help us be able to sell this mobility aids cheaper to people. Because it's all about sustainability. If we sell it below the cost and then we forward up, it doesn't help anybody.
And because of time,
yes. I wanted to say that, well, as expensive as it is, these are some of the things we are telling people that can help us, that can show empathy to us, to please help provide these things at affordable price, or at least give out. Instead of, you know, putting people together, getting people together and giving them food and all that. Food is good, but these are things that will help sustain us. Without this assistive device, we can't move around. We can't achieve a lot of, look at the way I came into the studio, just like that with the motorized wheelchair. Very expensive, it's like buying a car, you know. So if a lot of people can have this, then life will be better for us. If the buses are accessible, the road, the ramps and all that, then we can achieve more. That's why we're saying this law needs to be passed so that we can be empowered to do more.
Okay, let's bring Kia in here.
Yeah, but let me allow Fola to...
Bring me out.
Yeah, let me take you out in here.
Yeah, I was... Kia, I'm sure you listened to the tweets there. One of them mentioned the word dyslexia, which we perhaps don't even consider to be a disability in this part of the divide. But there are people who suffer from such. Your take on that?
Oh yes, we have a lot of people who are suffering from different kinds of disabilities, you know. But what we give prominence in Africa, and especially Nigeria, is the kind of disability we all see physically, you know. Forgetting the fact there are other kinds of disabilities, which means that most disabled persons are also not being seen, which makes it very difficult for them to be helped, you know. Like one of the speakers was actually saying, you see, most of the assistive devices are actually given by charity organizations. How many persons, PWDs, persons suffering, you know, living with disabilities, can actually afford to get these assistive devices? It's very difficult. Maybe canes for the blind, wheelchairs, you know, it becomes very difficult, you know. Every other person depends on donations, which is actually not nice because they can't fend for themselves. So if you go down particularly to this one mentioned, you know, you depend on relatives, you depend on friends, you depend on the government, which shouldn't be the case, you know. There should be some measure of independence for PWDs, you know. And that would go a long way to contributing to the economy of Nigeria.
All right, Kia, we're rounding off now, but let me ask you, what kind of future going forward would you like to see for PWDs, if I have to borrow your word in there?
A future where we'll be in an inclusive society, we'll be totally integrated, no segregation, no discrimination, where people look at you, what you can contribute, and not, let's just help him. No, just look at me. What can I give? Exactly, from my brains. What can I contribute meaningfully? We don't want pity. We want opportunities.
Thank you very much, Kia, for joining us in there. Okay, Cosmas, let me ask you finally. We know that government has to do so much, but it certainly has to start with the people first before government comes in one way or the other. But what kind of awareness would you like the people to have as a way of relating with you? Like Kia said, we don't want PT, we just want opportunities.
We just want to be treated like every other Nigerian. Okay. And when I say this, I mean, if you are constructing roads, know that I'm on a wheelchair and I have a right to use the road as well. When you're creating jobs, know that I'm a citizen and I have right to have a job and I want to work. Whatever we're doing, let us do it having in mind that we have people with disabilities who have equal rights to access whatever opportunity we are creating. And also, in terms of relating, when you see me, when you meet me, just talk to me, you know, relate to me like a human being. I don't want, like he said, pity, or I want you to treat me like equals, right? If I'm an intelligent person, treat me like an intelligent person. If I'm not educated, treat me like someone that's not educated, not just because I have disability. So see me, see who I am, and forget about my disability, and treat me. And when we say forget about our disability, we don't mean that we should leave us behind like the banks. We must have access. So create equal opportunity, enabling environment for us to function maximally, and we'll be fine.
Okay, quickly chip in, Shade. How do you prevent disability? Is it possible to prevent it, really? Are there prevention?
Yeah, for some kind of disability, there are preventions. I mean, for those that are hearing impaired, for example, I understand that if you have a problem with your ears and if you need it to be checked, you can do it on time before it deteriorates. And some other kind of disability that I really can't remember now, but to me, if it happens, it happens. Take the bull by the horn and keeping on no matter what. You've said it all. Give us the opportunities. Give us the opportunities. If you feel, oh, she can't do this because of her mobility, did you take time to ask me if I can? Who says I cannot do it better than the other person? If you give me the opportunity to do it. That is what we are saying. Okay. And then from the tweet again, I want to say one last word now. She talked about attitude of people. Our attitude needs to change. We should put it at the back of our mind, like I said, that nobody prays for disability. It can happen to anybody. So any person with disability that you find around yourself, try to think of what you can do. It's not about money all the time. Sometimes you have a blind person living with you as a co-tenant. What can you do every morning to help that person? Probably there's no water in that place. You can help fetch water, but ask first. Do you need help? Can I help you? That will go a long way to better our lot.
There's a thin line, really, between help and pity, because yes. You have to ask before you help.
Can I say what about prevention?
But even then, like Cosma said, just deal with me.
As a person,
for instance, if we are here in the office, I can help you sometime, even get your cup of tea.
You know, like just any other person.
It doesn't. Well, I can do that afterwards.
Talking about prevention, which is very important.
Yes,
vaccination, polio vaccination, and the roads. A lot of bad roads have caused disability, accidents, and then education. Waterborne diseases that could result in blindness and so on and so forth. There's so much we can do to prevent disability, and it's very important.
Thank you very much, Cosmas Okoli, for joining us on the program this morning. Folashade Salimonu, thank you for joining us. Did I pronounce this surname well?
Salimonu.
Salimonu.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. And Kie Obomanu, thank you very much for joining us from Port Harcourt. We'll go on a break now, and we'll come back to dwell more on other issues.